jurors speaking out in the Alex Murdaugh case of how they deliberated in just 45 minutes and made a guilty conviction of Alex Murdaugh killing his wife Maggie and son Paul. Let's get into it. Hi everyone, Empowering True Crime, Alex here. And unless you've been hiding under a rock, you have probably noticed that Alex Murdaugh, a prominent but now disgraced attorney in the Low Country there in South Carolina, has been not only found guilty of murdering his wife, Maggie, and son, Paul, but has been sentenced to 2 consecutive life terms for the murder. And that was actually the highest sentence that the state recommended for the murder in this case, even though death penalty could have been one of the sentences for those charges. Jurors have begun speaking out and sharing details on how they deliberated so quickly. Originally, it was stated that it was about 3 hours, but jurors speaking out now are saying, no, it actually took about 45 minutes. And there was this great interview, and I wanted to share snippets of that and talk about it together. So let me pull it up.
Joining us now are jurors James McDowell, Gwen Jennerette, and Amy Williams. Good morning to all of you.
Good morning.
Thank you for being here.
It's actually interesting, before we get started, that James, in the first couple of interviews that he did, he actually didn't want to state his last name, but now he is showing his name. Apparently, he is related to an assistant deputy or somebody who was on the scene during the murders or after the murder. So that was really interesting that he was even able to get through as a juror. The moment I saw that, I was like, oh no, he would have been X, but no, he was actually allowed to be one of the jurors because the defense allowed it, which is actually very interesting.
Sure. An ordeal, a 6-week ordeal. You did your jury service, your civic duty. You're here this morning. How does it feel when you realize all of the attention? You knew it was a high profile case. Did you understand how many people across the country were watching this?
I don't think it ever really, hit that it would be this big.
Yeah. How do you guys feel?
Same. Yeah. I didn't think it would be this big either.
When you saw the cameras outside the courtroom, though, I mean.
That's when I realized this is a big ordeal. Yeah.
What have people said to you just in the last few days? It's a small town. Did they realize, oh, you guys have been on the jury? Have you heard anything? What is the reaction you've heard?
So I think that, it kind of spread pretty quickly. So I think that a lot of my friends were very respectful. They didn't try to reach out. They didn't want to talk about the case because they knew I couldn't. So I think afterwards, as soon as the verdict came out, everybody was kind of sending me messages like,
what's going on?
Yeah.
So remember, the jury is not allowed to really, they're not allowed to talk about the case. They shouldn't be consuming any media that's going to tarnish or bias them in any way, in either direction. And so, right, I mean, these people have had to be basically, news free, can't talk about anything related to the case, which is one of the hugest cases out there at this time.
A lot has been made over the past few days about the speed with which you guys came back with that verdict. Take us inside the deliberation room. As I understand it, not everyone initially thought he was guilty. Is that right?
Correct. That's correct.
Yeah, so throughout the case, a lot of people would talk about how we didn't have a notepad in the jury room, but we weren't able to have it in the courtroom, but we did have them in the jury room. So a lot of people would write down questions as we, went back during break. So I think that kind of made the deliberation a little bit more efficient. Everybody knew the questions they had. We were able to get through them quickly.
That's actually really interesting, why they wouldn't be allowed to have a notepad. And I'm not sure if that's standard procedure. I know if I was a juror, I'd definitely want to have a notepad because I like to take notes and refer back to things later.
Talk about the case a little bit. Everybody wants to know what you think. What for you was the critical piece or pieces of evidence, Amy, I'll ask you first, that made you feel confident that this guilty verdict was the right one?
Well, the witness testimony was very believable, and the kennel video definitely played a major part. And his testimony.
Yeah.
Yes.
Murdaugh's testimony.
Yes.
What about when throughout the trial, there were a lot of witnesses saying, that's him, that's his voice. When he got on the stand, Gwen, and said, yeah, that was me. What did you think? How did that strike you?
Well, first of all, I couldn't believe that he was taking the stand. And when he got on the stand, I was like, okay. So it was him. I don't know him, so I never, knew his voice, but I realized it was him. And in the kennel video, that just kind of sealed the deal.
Do you think?
So for one, he he had been denying that he had been at that. First of all, his alibi was he was never at the kennels, and he was visiting his family, his parents, number one. Number two, he denied the voice on that Snapchat video. And so he kept on denying it wasn't him. And there were numerous witnesses saying that it was his voice. People who knew him, the closest people in his life. And so he could no longer deny it was his voice. And so when he got on on the witness, I'm sorry, when he testified, he finally came out and said, yes, 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 that was me. I was at the kennels. And basically, I lied about that.
He should have taken the stand.
No,
What about you, Amy?
No,
He didn't help himself.
no.
no.
If I was him, I don't think I would have, but I think that he believes that he's so convincing that he felt like that was his, last resort.
I a lot of people are saying he shouldn't have taken the witness stand. If you're, you're in a high profile murder case, people are even criticizing his attorneys, for allowing him to speak on on the stand. And ultimately, it's defendant's right and decision whether or not they want to take the stand. He is an attorney. I think he probably made the best decision that he thought at the time. I thought he maybe thought that that was his last chance to basically confess to all the other things he lied about, and then just saying, okay, I've lied about all this stuff. I'm telling the truth now, and I didn't kill my wife and son. The thing is that, like this gentleman just said, it almost sounded like he thought that he could basically convince the jury, he could convince everyone that he was innocent there at the end. And he didn't.
The financial crimes, when the state introduced all of that evidence about the past financial crimes and the money he'd stolen from clients, the money he'd stolen from the firm as well, did that impact your decision at all? Did that make a difference?
Well, we could only consider it as part of the motive. It helped showing that he was very convincing and manipulative, and so it made sense.
A lot of times the defense tried to take that anything related to the financial issues that Alex was having out. And really, and I love how she said, yeah, it could really show that there was part of a motive there. There was just a case just a few days ago here in where I live in Florida, where a gentleman who was going to court was basically, was going to go to court this month or for the next month for something related to financial troubles. And he killed his son of 3 years old, and he killed himself. So absolutely, financial issues are oftentimes the cause for people to take their own lives and also kill others. Embarrassment, shame, other feelings like that could, and then you couple that with the fact that in this case, Alex Murdaugh was taking lots of opioids and other drugs he had been taking drugs for a long, long, long time. So how did that affect him?
Talk about his testimony a little bit more, because he was very emotional. People watching from the outside thought, maybe this will be compelling to jurors. Did you believe him? Did you believe his tears? Did you think he was crying? Some other jurors have said they didn't buy it. What, you're shaking your head?
No, I didn't think he was crying. He turned it on and off.
Mm.
Yeah, it wasn't genuine.
Do you think he hurt himself by taking the stand? Did he make it worse?
I think he did.
Yes.
Why?
I just think that, we already know that he's a lawyer. He's able to be emotional with cases. He's able to be emotional with himself. He knows, like what she said, when to turn it on and off. So I think that we were kind of able to read right through that.
After sitting there for several weeks, and again, the state didn't have to prove a motive. Do either of you have any idea of perhaps why he did it?
I don't know if we'll ever know. I think it may have been a combination of things, not just the financial, but everything was weighing heavy on him, I believe.
Gwen, what do you think?
I think it was he wanted to have control of everything, and his wife owned the majority of the things that they owned. They had some thinking it was more like greed and being in control.
I think the prosecution had a very good point. It's a storm.
Yes.
At points in time, the defense would take one aspect and be like, it couldn't have been this. And it may not have been that one singular thing, but there's so many things there that contribute to that overall storm that, I think it played a part.
They had you guys go and visit the scene, Moselle, this estate where the crimes took place. Was that worth your time? Was that worthwhile? Did you learn anything from that? James?
Yeah, I think that we were, throughout the case, you kind of see pictures and stuff, but until you get out there, you're not able to really see how everything plays a part. There were a few things that I made mental notes of that I wanted to check out if we did go out there, and I was able to, take a look at that.
What about
Yeah.
you, Gwen?
Same here. I wanted to see how big that feed room was, and it was very tiny in person. And I also wanted to see if you could see down there to the feed room and kennels from the house.
Mm.
And you could.
Right. So the whole thing of like the kennels were so far away from the house that even if shots were fired and he happened to be there asleep on the couch, when he went over to visit his parents, he couldn't have seen them, or he wouldn't have seen them, or he wouldn't have heard what was happening. So that kind of, that's what she's saying, that it could be seen from the house.
I know two of you went back the next day after the verdict. You went back for the sentencing. Why was it important for you, the two of you, to be there for that part of it?
Just to see it through to the end.
Okay.
Just like what she said, we spend 6 weeks there, we bond, we're a very close knit jury at that point in time. So it was important for us to go back and kind of, see it to the end. We had just decided what the verdict was going to be. We at least wanted to see it to the end, see what the sentencing would be.
Well, I mentioned that you did your civic duty. You're wearing your Constitution tie. It is a lot that we ask of our fellow citizens to sit in judgment of another. It's not easy. It's a great sacrifice in every way. So thank you for being here and spending a little time with us in a case that's gotten a lot of interest. And thank you for your service.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Well, there you have it. Yeah, that was so interesting. One of the jurors here, and also another juror, had mentioned that the video was one of the key pieces of evidence. The video that Paul took on his phone, which happened to be a Snapchat video, was one of the key pieces of evidence that really it put Alex Murdaugh at the crime scene minutes before the murders happened. That's something he lied about. He lied about being there. So if he wasn't around a few minutes before the murders, then who murdered Maggie and Paul? So really that linked him. That was a key piece of evidence, and him testifying and saying that, yes, that was him, because before, up until then, it was all these other witnesses saying that that was his voice. But when he took the stand and said, yes, that was me, I was there, and I lied because I was on drugs and I was paranoid and all these other things, really, that's what part of why they're saying that he didn't help himself when he took the stand. So would love to hear your thoughts. What do you think? Let me know down in the comments. And while you're down there, make sure to follow or subscribe to my channel. Hit the thumbs up so you help the algorithm, help me out. So as I grow my channel, stay safe, stay thriving, keep it empowering, and have a wonderful week. Bye for now. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the bell button for notifications. Thank you.